My name is LindoPep, obviously known as Ulindo Gutlenkosi as well. I'm the TTB show host. I'm joined by Sahil Ebrahim, the transfer market area manager. There's so much I need to get from this guy, guys. There is so much that we need to understand from this guy. More especially from a transfer market perspective, how they evaluate players, and what does he think of the South African transfer market, African transfer market, and which are the places that these teams are looking at. But before we even get into the transfer market and everything else, Sahil, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you so much, Lindo. Nice of you to invite me, and to Gerald as well for arranging this.
Yeah. Maybe the first question is, who is Sahil Ebrahim? Maybe let's start there, because maybe a lot of people don't know who's behind this page.
Yeah, look, I'm just a football fan from young. By day, I'm a software developer. I work mainly with data. And in 2020, I got the opportunity to work for Transfermarkt. It's a German company. And because of my, passion for data and football, I had the opportunity to combine the two. And that's how I ended up working for them, obviously going through a rigorous interview process and so on. But in terms of me, I have a massive passion for football. In terms of local football, I wouldn't say I've been following it too much when I was younger. I used to attend games. I used to go watch Santos, and there was a couple of Champions League games that time. I think it was called the African Cup, where we used to go and watch. But I wasn't following it too closely. But in 2020, it's like a switch flipped, where I watch much more local football than European football. In fact, now if there's, I support Man United. Well, I don't want to make that public, but when I do have the opportunity to watch either Man United or if there's a big PSL game on, I'll rather choose the PSL game because I just, I just find it more intriguing. Obviously, I have a bias for South African football now that I have to cover it. But yeah, definitely, keeping track of all the players is difficult if you're not watching. So you need to watch as many games as you can, to keep track of all the players.
Yeah, maybe the next question would be, Sahil, what is the transfer market? What is it?
So Transfermarkt is a German platform. It's a platform that started out of community involvement where, a couple of guys got together many years ago, and they decided to just, start valuing players at the time in the German second league and third league and in the Austrian league. And that's how it started. It was a lot of community involvement. And as they assigned players values, the platform grew and grew. They then started covering, other European leagues. And then in 2020, they had a big expansion where they started moving to South America, to Indonesia, and then one of the countries was South Africa that they wanted to cover. And then when you're asking what is Transfermarkt, the actual platform, we have a lot of data on the platform. So the platform, it comprises of match data. It has, all your statistics from goals scored, clean sheets, all that sort of things. But our main focus is obviously assigning market values to players. And that takes, we have 4 volunteers that cover the South African League. And then we have myself. We have the African area manager, O'Neill, Kiamu Radin. Those in the online space may know him. He's quite active in the African sphere of things, and together we evaluate players. There's the PSL players that we cover, but also there's the wider African contingent that we also need to take care of. And then, of course, when our players move overseas, we often get asked, what our opinions are of the players, how popular are they, and so on. So there's a lot, not just in the local sense. It's more of, when players move overseas and so on as well.
So Sahil, you guys get that power that maybe, for example, did you get an opportunity to get asked when Cassius Malula moved to the US and stuff like that? In terms of the profile of the player, the personality?
So you must remember that Transfermarkt we are a complete, separate organization. We're not the transfer market. We're not like a lot of times I get asked this, like, are you guys the transfer market? Do people have to log the transfer with you guys? No, this is a third party. We are a completely separate party. We evaluate players based on a list of criteria that we have. And often a lot of, throughout the football value chain, whether it's agents, clubs, even players, they find the importance in it. So the market value is used by agents to decipher whether a player is actually worth this amount. Like if we take, for example, this player that Mamelodi Sundowns are apparently going to sign today, I think it's Lucas Suarez. And
Suarez,
so so his market value is 700,000, right? So he's from Atletico Teleres in Argentina. And so now that market value of 700,000 is assigned by the Argentinian team, right? Our Argentinian team. And so they've assigned this value. Now for a club like, for example, Mamelodi Sundowns, or maybe an agent that is interested in bringing the player across, he might have no clue about this player besides maybe videos that he's watched and so on. So what is this player's worth? And so that's where Transfermarkt comes in trying to assist you in, getting a ballpark figure for what this club should pay for the player. Of course, there's a lot of other elements involved, lots of variables that can come into play, but it gives you a nice ballpark figure to say, you know what, Lucas Suarez is worth 700,000 euros. You should not be paying, double that amount, for example. That's just one example, but of course, that's the use case that teams or agents may use the Transfermarkt platform for.
Yeah, I understand it's a German company, Sahil. But what does Transfermarkt want to achieve in football? What does it want to achieve in football?
I think so. Our aim, like in South Africa, I can't answer for the rest of the world, but for South Africa, the aim is to definitely bring up to standard the South African level of data. So not just market values, but data in terms of match data, match reports, player data, keeping it up to date and having it up to the standard that the rest of the world has. If you look at like the German leagues or the English leagues, they have from the top division all the way down to the 4th to the 5th tier, right? Yeah. In the South African league, I'm only covering the Betway Premiership because this is the mandate that I've been given, right? But if we do a good enough job there, then obviously they will see value in that and then want to cover, the other leagues. Then we'll have to get more people involved. We'll have to hire more people. But that's what they want to achieve in South Africa, to get the level of data, not just market values, up to the standard that the rest of the world has as well.
Okay, maybe that moves me to my next question. What do you do as a transfer market area manager? What do you do?
Yeah, so you know what? There's no, like, my day is different every day. Like, for example, like today I've had like player agents reach out to me to say, listen, can you update this player's date of birth? Right? I'm not going to give the name of the player, but it's a Burundian player, right? All the way in Burundi, but it's a South African agent, and he's asking me to update the guy's date of birth. This is just one example. My days are always different, but in general, like my responsibilities are generally to like form a relationship with clubs, form relationships with agents, and then also to bring the quality of data that we have up to standard. And this is probably the toughest thing to do. It's not always easy. A player will transfer to a club. Let's say, I don't want to give an example, but let's say a player transfers to a club. Sometimes the club doesn't announce the player. You get clubs like Polokwane City. They don't have a social media account. They don't have a website. You need to go and I need to pick up the phone and phone them and ask them, listen, did this player join your club? Can I have contract details? How long was the contract? And a lot of times the clubs aren't forthcoming. They don't necessarily want to give you that data for whatever reason. And this is where I find it challenging. Sometimes I find out a player joined the club when I get the match sheet. Sometimes you put on the TV and you see the guys running out for Polokwane City, but last week he was playing for Marumo Gallants. So this is the type of challenges that we have. So it's not easy because I don't want to paint brush all clubs, but a lot of the times there's a level of professionalism that just isn't there. And it's understandable, you know, we are a growing nation in terms of football.
You know what, Sahil, there is another question. Sorry to cut you, Sahil. Actually, that was exactly my next question. My next question to say, what are the challenges that you go through? Because we all know that it's not all roses and flowers in South African football. We know that, I don't want to be controversial here, right? But we know that some players don't receive their salaries in time, coaches, the contracts are not that transparent because there's certain hidden things within that contract. But what are the challenges? Maybe I know you can't mention a club, but what are the challenges that you go through?
Yeah, look, like what I mentioned is just about the transfer of a player, right? Within a transfer, for me, the biggest challenge in South Africa, without a doubt, and a lot of fans will agree to this, is the transfer fee. The transfer fee is never publicly exposed. It's never publicized, especially transfers between a South African club to another South African club. They're very hard to come by. It may get leaked sometimes if an agent feels that they maybe don't like a club and they want to leak it. They leak it to a journalist, but that's an edge case. So most of the time you get no transfer fees. Now that makes my job very hard because let's say a player transfers from club A to club B for a value of €1 million, right? Hypothetically.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he transferred for €1 million. Now I have to give a market value to this player, right? Our market values are based off our criteria, which is obviously future prospects, things like age, very important, the performance, both at club and at national level. Things like, you might find it funny, but whether the guy's a fan favorite, whether he is a reputable player, the prestige of the player is also, it comes into the market value. And then another thing is the transfer fee. So now I can't use a transfer fee at all because I don't know the transfer fee and I'm never going to find out, So that is one of probably the biggest challenges that we find, whereas in Europe and in MLS, I don't know if you know this, but in MLS, they release a roster because you touched on salary. In MLS, I think it's in May every year, I may be wrong, May or June, they release the salary of every single player of every single club in the MLS. That is public knowledge. It's on a website. You can go and click. If in Njabula Blom, when he was there, I could see exactly how much he was earning, Imagine that sort of thing in South Africa. It's hard to imagine. It's almost unfathomable because it's like...
Why do you think it's the reason, Sahil, here in South Africa? What do you think is the reason?
There's many. I think there's socio-economic reasons. You must remember we're not a first world country also. You have to understand that there's things outside of football that influence football that you can't deny, right? So I'm not saying change it. I'm not saying it's going to change immediately, like in a few days or maybe in a few years. But I attended, I must tell you, I attended the Business of Football conference. It was one of the first of its kind conferences held in South Africa, and all the big players were there, like Jessica Motaung. We had even our good journalists that were there. Mazola was there. Lawrence Collar was there. All of the big players, so to say, were there. And my hope in this was that they would actually discuss like this type of thing that we're discussing now, and it was never addressed. And it was such a disappointment for me because the thing is, this is like one of the things that will help make our football better, I think, because sometimes I go and I have meetings with clubs and, sometimes people tell me things and it's like, I hear this and I'm like, someone told me, I'm not going to name the club, but they tell me, they pay players 2,000 Rand a month.
Yeah.
3,000 Rand a month. And you're not surprised. So that means So what I'm saying is, to me, it was
I'm
such
genuinely
a shock
not surprised. Sorry to cut you, Sahil. I know of a coach. Actually, I can't reveal the name of the coach. I know of a coach that hasn't received his salary from a previous club that he worked at. Till today, it's December now.
Yeah.
It's December
crazy.
now.
So,
he hasn't received the salary since July last season.
So, like, look at Rele, for example. That's just one of the examples. I mean, the players didn't receive a salary in December, apparently, and then the club came out and then they said, yeah, they did pay the salary, and then there was obviously they had external factors involved. But what I'm saying is, this is not even not paying salary. This is written down on a contract that you're going to earn 2,000 to 3,000 rand a month. That for me is the type of thing that if it's exposed, like if we say salaries are exposed, we can't expect people to accept it. Like, that's why I'm saying we are very far away from like the MLS type of model and even the European type of model where transfer fees get exposed. Because I don't think it's in the best interest. And I'm thinking purely from a, how can I put it? Like from a greed point of view. Like, I don't think agents will want to do it. I don't think clubs will want to do it. And I don't think players would want to do it immediately. Because in South Africa, money is a very sensitive topic. It's like, I don't know, it's like, it's almost a taboo to discuss salary. Like, and that's obviously a factor involved in it. But look, that's one of the challenges. I don't want to harp on it too much. But then one of the other challenges, on a lighter note, the other challenges I do face is like, we've had a very strange history as a footballing nation. Like you will know, like we come from the days of like, you know, the NSL before 1994. We had different leagues. We had a white league and a black league. We had, you know, so the challenge for me was like, I have to get the historical data, you know, all the way back until 1994. So that's one of the things that I'm working through now. And it's part of my duty as the area manager to kind of cover the data back. So I've worked all the way back to 2000 and slowly working my way back now to 1994. But you can imagine that data is hard to come by. And we actually, there are people that have the data, but it's not owned by the PSL. It's owned by private individuals and private institutions. So it's, it's one of the things that we're working towards.
Sahil, I have to ask you this. How do you guys get these evaluation of the players? I know you did explain a little bit of you going to clubs, but maybe you can, it's an educational moment for South Africans, because we sometimes wonder, how does an evaluation get to 25 million, 20 million for a player like Jaden Adams? Obviously there's age, there's the quality of player, there's performance and so forth. Maybe maybe you can give us an educational moment to say when a player is valued at a certain amount and why, because it's not that transparent like you explained. But I think maybe just to be very clear, how do you guys get to evaluate some of the players?
So you must remember, first of all, that a market value is not just a shot in the dark market value. It's not like yesterday the guy was 0 and now he's 1.2 million. That's not going to happen in the South African context, because I gave you like, our highest market value at the moment is 2.3 million, which is shared by Tebogo Mokoena and Marcelo Allende. So 2.3 million, from 0 to 2.3 million here in South Africa, it's not going to happen. And the reason for that is basically down to where we rank as a nation compared to the rest of the world, right? On a footballing level. And so in terms of the market value, these values are adjusted. They are not given from 0 to X amount, right? That's the first thing you must remember. Then there's factors involved. I've explained to you that the performance is a key factor. Age is a key factor. And I'm gonna come back to age. Then there's obviously like the developmental potential of the player. And then the other big one is the transfer fee. And then also, like, there's other minor things that we look at, but then the other major one is also where the nation ranks. So I can't always say for sure that, we get things 100% right all of the time, because we don't, right? And this is where community involvement is important. So Transfermarkt as a platform, we are a free to use platform. We are built, like I said, this thing was built by a community of users, and it's maintained by a community of users. Yes, they have a structure now, and there's, they accompany and they pay people, but we still want fan involvement. We want community involvement. So before the market values, we have two market values that we release every year. Right? We have a mid-season, which happened now in January, and we'll have an end of season, which will happen in June. And so we want people to get involved in that process. Like I said, we don't get it right all of the time. But I think in South Africa, because it's new and also because we've only started evaluating South African players from 2020, we still have a lot to learn, myself included, in evaluating players. But like I said, those are the major things. And then there's a couple of minor things as well. There's a long document I have to follow when I evaluate each player. And we don't always evaluate each player. So in the mid-season update, we only cover players which we see as highlighted players. So highlight can mean they are very good or very poor, or maybe a player that is new. Like if you look at Mohaun Kota, he never had a professional, a top tier game under his belt before the start of the season. And now in January, he's one of the main players. Pirates are using him almost every game. So now we have to say, okay, Mohaun Kota, what do we do with him? Because he's performing at a level that, one of the best in his position. So now what do we do? So we have to give him a value that is appropriate, not just because he's new on the platform, but also because he's performing to a level that is that's better than most down the left side. So that's the type of things that we look at. But yeah, coming back to, I mentioned something about age.
You spoke about age. Yeah, that's the interesting one. Yeah.
So for me in South Africa, this is one of the other challenges I have. In South Africa, players get introduced very late on. So what does that mean? So as you know, in football, a football career spans generally from the age of, if we look in South Africa, from say 2021, right, to around 30, 34, 35. Now, that's very late compared to Europe. Players in Europe, players in even like in South America and in North Africa, they're getting introduced at like 16, 17. They already have values assigned to them. For me, if I can, okay, I can't check now, but like for me, I think when I checked, like we hardly have 16-year-olds that have been assigned a market value. The reason for that is they have not played a professional game. Now, what do? I can't give you a market value if I've never seen you play a professional game. It's not fair. Yeah. And it's not fair on other 16-year-olds across the globe, because the thing is, we must also realize that Transfermarkt as a platform is not just used in South Africa, it's used throughout the world. So now, for example, an agent in Europe is inquiring about a player like, let's say, Apelele Teto, for example, that went to Livingston, right? He's now, when he went, he had a market value, which was very low, right? And when he went to Livingston, his market value was very low because at the time, he didn't have much appearances under his belt at TS Galaxy. So this is the type of thing I'm saying. I can't be unfair on the rest of 16-year-olds across the globe and say, 17-year-olds and say, you know what, Teto, because he's now going to Europe, I must give him a value of 800,000, So those are the type of things. So age makes it very difficult. And I often have to motivate why I'm increasing a player's market value that's over the age of 30. We look at someone like Peter Shalulile, for example. He turned 30 last year. And last year, he was still scoring. He was still doing goals, like amazingly well as he always does. Okay, this season was an exception. Yeah. So, it was very hard for me to motivate that.
Maybe, okay. There's an interesting question here. Let me take it from the top with the conversation that we had, right, with Peter Shalulile and so forth. There's an interesting question that's on the comment section and says, it's from Musbusiso Sense Mahlangu. He's a former SuperSport United midfielder. And he's asking a very interesting question. He says, with the quality of Tebogo Mokoena, why is it an issue for Europeans to accept the price tag placed on him?
That's a very difficult one to answer. Like, I don't understand which specific club he's talking about. But often, like what I find is people don't necessarily place trust in the values that they're given. Like, I can't say they were given a 2.3 million price tag because that's what we value him as. I think Sundowns definitely valued him higher. And so if I'm not mistaken, they were quoted 5 million euros, if I'm not mistaken. And so what the European clubs are looking at is at that age, I think this was about 2 years ago, at that age, which was, so Mokwena's 27 now, so that would have been 25. They will compare Mokoena at another 25-year-old, not European player. They will then look at other emerging markets and say, what can I get for a 25-year-old South American player or a 25-year-old North African player? And I think that's what they see. Yes, if they had, agents actually here in the country and watching Mokoena week in, week out, they would obviously see his quality. So I think maybe that's a factor I can put it down to. But we all know Mokwena's quality. I think he was more than ready for Europe when he left SuperSport, actually. And I just think it's unfortunate for a player like him to not have had that opportunity. Sometimes it comes down to clubs, sometimes it comes down to the actual player not wanting to move. But there's a lot of factors involved. Unfortunately, I can't say it's necessarily the price tag that chased the club away, but it does look like maybe Sundowns, they outpriced the club. They chased them away with a high price tag.
Yeah. All right. Smanga, can you guys please, can I have on the comment section, can you guys give me 5 questions that I'm going to ask Sahil? Smanga, can you please write down the most interesting questions and then please send them to me on the group? 5 questions. We're only going to take 5, Sahil, and then they're going to send me to the group as we're about to finish. But maybe the next question is, who carries currently the most expensive player on the transfer market, more especially when you're looking at the Betway Premiership?
So I mentioned it's Marcelo Allende and Tebogo Mokoena. That's at 2.3 million each. So we released a list of top 10. And then the top 10 is there's actually 3 or 4 players that's tied in 10th place. But yeah, those 2 are the highly valued, Marcelo Allende and Tebogo Mokoena. Marcelo Allende, we actually gave him a decrease in value in the last update. And that was met with a lot of of course, a lot of people won't disagree with it. So Allende's season, last season compared to the start of this season has not been the same. So he has a certain trajectory, and also he came in with a high price tag. So for us to then say, okay, you know what, if we were to compare Allende to another midfielder in the league, is he doing better than that midfielder? And it's not always the case, so that's why we've had to, but it's not by much, it was by 100,000 euros. And then of course we had other players that have shot up in value, like Lucas Ribeiro, that has been, since he actually joined Ribeiro, Sundowns have done well with that signing, amazingly well, because when they brought him in, he was valued at 600,000 euros, and now he's valued at 2 million euros. And they got him in at a young age. A lot of people don't always see Sundowns as a club that's going to, make a profit of a player. But this is something that they can actually do if they wanted to at this point, because Ribeiro could potentially fetch them double than what they bought him. But they've also, Sundowns, as you know, they've made some other signings which I find questionable, which was Arthur Salles, and also even Matthias Escobar. Very strange signing in my books, but very highly valued players. Escobar, I think at the time, was 1.7 million euros, and he's still around that amount, but he's gone out on loan. But yeah, in terms of the most highly valued players, so you'd look at Ribeiro, Marcelo Allende, Tebogo Mokoena, Ikram Reyners, and those are the top. And maybe let me ask you an interesting question, and maybe this one will give us an understanding how you guys value players and the valuation and what happens in the background of the work that you guys do. Because this player is one player that a lot of people would be asking about, and I see the comment section are asking about it. Rele Mofokeng. What is the evaluation of Rele Mofokeng, and how will he be the most valued player? Because he's got the talent, he's got the age. I don't know. He's got so many things that you guys can value him as probably the most expensive player in the Betway Premiership. So how does it go with his valuation, and maybe give us an understanding with that? So you must remember, like I said, values get adjusted. They don't just get given right from zero to whatever. So you must remember Mofokeng, he's 80, wait, what is he? 20 years old now, right? So he's 20 now. And he's actually the highest valued under 21 player that we have. He's valued at 1.2 million. And that puts him in the top 15 in the league. Right? So, yes, he is performing exceptionally well. But you must remember that we cannot value him in a how can I say? I can't give him a jump of 1 million based off the past 6 months. That just won't make sense, right? Because what happens in the next 6 months? Let's say Mofokeng gets injured and he doesn't play for 6 months. Now I have to devalue him 1 million. It doesn't make sense. So what we do is we slowly increment the player. And if you look at Rele Mofokeng, he's been consistent in the past, let's say, year and a half at Orlando Pirates. And we've given him increases that reflect that. So he is the most highly valued under 21 player. He's in the top 15 overall of all the players in the league. And he's definitely one of the best prospects in the league. And that's why we actually gave him the biggest increase. Out of all players, we've given him the biggest increase. We've given him an increase of 400,000 euro. And, he deserves it. He deserves perhaps more than that. So I must say, especially younger players, I have a big admiration for younger players because it's more difficult for them to perform well. So if you look at Nkota, Mofokeng, even Chueza at Cape Town City and other younger players, so they don't always get the opportunity. So they have to make use of the little opportunity they have to make the biggest impact. Whereas sometimes the older players are given more leeway by the coach. They're given more, they're taken a bit more care of. But yeah, so with Mofokeng, his value did increase by the most of any player, but he is not the most highly valued player at the moment in the league.
Sahil, just for clarity, because in the comment section, people are asking, the values that you're talking about in which currency? In South African currency, in rands?
In euros. In euros. Yeah. So you must remember, like I mentioned, it's a European platform, right? It's used across the globe. Now they could have given any currency. They chose the euro because they wanted to use one standard currency for everyone to use. So, for example, if I take Mofokeng and I take Cole Palmer from Chelsea, I will now know, okay, this is Mofokeng's value compared to Cole Palmer. And an agent from Europe or an agent from North Africa or an agent from South America can come and look for Rele Mofokeng and they can see his value and immediately know, okay, he's valued at this, and they can compare him to maybe a player in their league. It's just a standard value. You can, of course, convert that to rands or whatever you want. It's something that I actually am looking into. I want it shown in rands as well, so that, our local football fans can go on and say, you know what, 1 million euros, it's 20 million rand, whatever it is. Because to be honest with you, that's another challenge, maybe with South Africans, maybe with the website with regards to euros and so forth. I think it would have been better in South African rands. Because remember, a general normal South African fan is one that goes to work Monday to Friday, wants to watch a football match on a Saturday and goes to church on a Saturday. So those are the people that you work with, and those are the people that you are actually talking to. But let me move on quickly to some of the questions that the technocrats are asking me. By the way, we've got a group of technocrats. It's a group on WhatsApp. It's a small community that we've been building. And maybe Mohloni Mujela is actually here. He's saying, Pep, Shapu Zhuang Mujela, I hope you're well. Maybe the next question is, give me your 5 best players in the Betway Premiership. It doesn't have to do with valuation. I'm just picking your brain as a football man now. Can I have your 5 best players in the Betway Premiership? There's someone that hasn't been playing always regularly. I really like Monopole Saleng. Chueza at Cape Town City. Really like watching him play, and I can get to go watch him. Because I'm based in Cape Town. Mofokeng, without a doubt, always exciting to watch. Lucas Ribeiro. I think one of the best imports we've ever had in the league. and maybe from Stellenbosch, we Fawaz Basadin. I like his left foot.
Like, he's got a sweet left foot. He's got,
Yeah.
you know what? He's got a
And he's
sweet
got a finish.
left foot. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's got a sweet. We call it an educated left foot. But with Rele,
Yeah,
you counted
for sure.
Chweza. Chweza, how good can the boy be? Because we've seen him in the AFCON wearing number 10, playing behind Peter Shalulile in that Namibian squad. Comes to Cape Town City, of course. And the start of the season was very difficult for the boy because obviously under Eric Tindler, the results were not forthcoming. But you're looking at him now, and under Mshini Etugra, he looks like a completely different player. How good can he be?
I think, a lot of hype was around Emil Witbooi, for Cape Town City. He went for trials at Chelsea, and there was a lot of hype around him. And then, all the Cape Town City fans were like, oh, we want to watch him play. And then, but Chweza is, week in, week out, he's putting in the performances. And
Yep.
I actually know his agent. And I just want to put it out there. This guy is wanted. Cape Town City are gonna have to fight to keep him. That's what I'm gonna say. He's really good. Compared to, so he came from KF Lyria in Kosovo. He's been performing there, and then Cape Town City got him. The transfer was delayed because he was injured. But yeah, now that he's on the ground running, he's proving his worth. And I actually valued him. So another interesting thing. So when I value players, right, I get feedback from the data admins in the South African domain, right, and then I correlate all that feedback of all the values that they've given, and I finalize it, and then I forward the values onto our international area manager. And in June last year, I had given Chweza a value, and they actually said, no, he's not worth this amount. And I was disappointed, and I told him, just wait and see. Just wait and see. And I promise you, this value that we actually given him, he's going to be worth it. And, 6 months later, I actually messaged our international manager, and I told him, look here, this is what I told you his value should be at, and now we are putting it at that value. But anyway, I think definitely one of the better Namibian players. Obviously,
top.
He's still got a lot to prove. Also, we've had other great Namibians and have a great Namibian there in Peter Shalulile. That he's got to live up to.
Maybe let's talk about the face of the league now. The best player in the Betway Premiership. You and I, we've spoken about Lucas Ribeiro, right? I just love Umshishi. I know he's injured now, Tembazwane. I know he's injured, but I love Tembazwane, to be honest with you. I think for me, he's the best player in the league. I know there's players that I like from a personal level, like Rivaldo Kutse, Kocho. Maybe you can count in there Marcelo Allende. But when you're talking about the best player in the league now, but in your opinion, who is the face of the league? Because when I'm looking at Lucas Ribeiro, I'm thinking of a player who's not just top in South Africa. I've given myself this duty to watch most of the teams in the CAF Champions League, which also tells you the best players that are playing across the in Africa. For me, I think I will make a statement now. He's probably the best player in Africa. So, but who is the face of the league?
I'm not going to agree or disagree with you. Like Ribeiro's class. Like I said earlier, he's, I think, one of the best imports we've ever had into the league. And this bears testament to what Sundowns is doing. And I don't know if like at that Business of Football conference that we had, Flemingberg was there, and he was explaining their recruitment process and how they do things. And they have this wagon wheel that they use where they involve all of the club in the decision-making process, and every single one of those people in the decision-making process agreed that they need to get Lucas Ribeiro. And I mean, when they went out, they got him from a second division team in Belgium. I can't remember the team's name, but when they got him, it was like, who is this guy and whatever. But the best testament, what I was saying is, the best testament to how Sundowns is bringing the level of South African football up. Not many will like it. Not many will like, agreeing to it. But it's true. Like, they're going to bring this guy now, Lucas Suarez, for example.
Suarez,
right? who's 700,000 euro value, right? He's going to be one of the highest valued centre backs in the league. So now what that means is other clubs will now have to, they will have to push up their standards. They will have to push up their level. And so I'm not going to agree or disagree with you on Lucas Ribeiro. Definitely one of the best imports. But Themba Zwane, Mshishi. You know what? 2 years ago, I had the honor of actually going to Sundowns. We have a Player of the Season award that we award every year. We started in 2022. So the first award actually went to a Sundowns player. We gave it to Peter Shalulile. And, I had the opportunity to go to Kloekop and present the award to Peter. And so Coach Rulani Mokoena was there at the time. And, he sang his praises. And for me, I just couldn't wait to get all the formalities over because I wanted to speak to Themba Zwane. Like for me... Dude, on a club level, on a national level, what he's done. Like, I mean, if you saw last year, AFCON, he bailed Bafana out so many times. And he's like, okay, people say he's a bit older now, he's on the, on the sunset of his career. But yeah, man, like I love the guy, man. Like Themba Zwane. Like now for me, the fanfare around, like Themba Zwane is a universal, likable player. It's like almost everyone supporting any club can like him. Now I see Mofokeng as that now. I see Rele Mofokeng as that now. Where, even Chiefs fans, they don't mind you. They won't admit that they don't mind watching him. So this is what I'm saying. It's like that type of player. When you say face of the league, the player must transcend almost like the kind of barriers that keep you in a club domain. Kind of, it must be this guy can attract any fan, and that's what I think Mofokeng can do. And he's got his head screwed on, he's 20 years old. I mean, me at 20, I can't even remember what I was doing. This guy is like, he's on the cover of what they had, the GQ photo shoot. They had so many things, and he's still on the pitch. It's not affecting him. So I pray that continues for him. Whether he stays at Pirates or whether he goes to, he's been to Wolves. There's rumors that he may go to Rangers, and wherever he goes, I hope he.
Is that rumor of Spain true? How true is that Barcelona B rumor?
So you must remember that rumors. You get a range of rumors, and we're going to go into a different category of transfer market now because we also love reporting on rumors, but. I get rumors from different places. Sometimes an agent will come to me and say, "Listen,
okay."
Sahil,
before you continue, Sahil, there's actually an interesting question. There's actually an interesting question on the comment section from Umhlengi Sport, who's a journalist, right? And he's asking, the relationship they have with player agent, isn't that a damage on pricing player values?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Like, look, I get questions asking all the time, when is your market value update? And I'll say June, right? The agent will message me in April already asking me, what are you going to put? I can't say the player's name, but what are you going to put this guy's value on? And for me, I have to remain unbiased. That's why, you can ask Gerald. I can't support a club publicly because, like for me, I support every club. Because for me, I can't say I support Cape Town City or I support Sundowns or I support Pirates, because the thing is, it automatically gives a bias, and I need to remain unbiased at all times because I have that responsibility of assigning player values. And in the same breath, when an agent comes to me and says, "Can you push up this player's value to 1 million?" I have to say, like, respectfully, like, listen, it's not. Number one, it's not up to me, right? Which is a good thing. It's not up to an individual. It's a team. And I get to have a final say on the final value, but definitely what the agent says to me has no impact on what the player's value is going to be. Because, you know what? There is a dampener that can put on a relationship with the agent. But you know what? Agents come and go. Like the platform it's meant to be here to stay, and that's what's the most important thing. So we need to be professional at all times and unbiased at all times, because at the end of the day, all that will do is just damage the platform. It will damage the player's reputation. It will even damage the agent's reputation, for all I care. So that's why, yes, we do have agents that list on the platform. So agents that are interested, maybe I have some of them on your TikTok live now. Agents can list on our platform, and they can list the entire portfolio. They can list whether they're FIFA accredited, and we provide that for them free of charge. And they can have the entire portfolio of all the players there. But at the same time, that is a benefit both for them and for us. But that's as far as it goes. When it comes to market values, that is a complete internal process only.
All right, before I bring in the panel, there's one that you see that's interesting. Actually, please catch that one, the one that you like. Actually, there's one that fascinates me. It says it's from TK. He's part of a technocrat as well. He's asking, I see there's 70 messages below, actually. There's like 70 messages below me. And the one that I'm actually sitting on is because it interests me. It says, what's the difference between Sundowns and the other big clubs in terms of recruiting abroad?
So I mentioned the one thing that Flemingberg said, right, the recruitment process and how they involve all the heads of the relevant departments in the decision-making process. And the thing that I find interesting when I was hearing Flemingberg's speech is, yes, he is the one in charge as the sporting director, and he has the final say. But the process and the methodology is agnostic, right? So it doesn't need him, right? So when he leaves, this process and methodology can stay in place. But I think what they're doing and what Sundowns is doing, they are using platforms that clubs overseas are using. One such platform, I don't know if you know about it, it's called Transfer Room. So Transfer Room is basically a platform where clubs can go onto, and they can, I'm doing a free advert for Transfer Room here, but they can go onto and they can basically contact another club about a player. And it's sort of like the social media for clubs to arrange transfers, not just for players, but also for club staff. So if you're looking for a coach, if you're looking for... So on this platform, they've actually signed Matthias Escoval on that platform. They signed Lucas Ribeiro on that platform. They're signing Lucas Suarez on that platform. They signed Tashreeq Matthews on that platform. Now, the reason I think Kopamela Kodisang as well. So the reason I'm saying all of this is this gives them exposure to a pool of players that other clubs may not necessarily have, right? Yes, I think Stellenbosch recently signed up for the platform as well, but they are now obviously 2 or 3 seasons ahead of them. And I think this is the type of thing, man. They are pushing boundaries which other clubs are scared to do. Yes, they have the financial muscle to do so. I don't want to make that seem like a small thing, because Sundowns has the money that a lot of other clubs don't have. And yes, that plays a big factor, but they're also brave, and they take risks that other clubs maybe don't. And so in this sort of thing, I'm just using this platform as an example. They are the pioneers in doing that thing. And so what does that do? Yes, it's a risk, but it also gives them a reward that they might that other clubs might not have. So I think off the field, they definitely, I think, moving beyond boundaries, and it's reflecting well for them on the field.
All right, there's an interesting question again from Umhlengi Sports again. A member of the show, is actually the journalist of the show, or should I call him my Grootman? He says, do you have PSL team values on how much they are valued, on how much they're worth actually?
Yeah, so I think he commented about Magesi being 2 million. So now Magesi is completely, obviously it's the first time they've been in the top flight, so in the Premiership, and so the players were like relatively unknown to our data admins. Yes, they followed them in previous seasons in other cup competitions. So they essentially went from 0 valued players all the way up to a 2 million team value. So team value is basically just comprised of each player's value, nothing else. We don't do squad values on the platform, except it's just a summation of all the players that are within that club. Yeah, Magesi, I'm very close with Magesi as well. I actually, like I told you, I'm a software engineer by day, and I had the opportunity with a friend of mine to build Magesi's website. So I'm very close to Magesi. So there again, I have to be unbiased. Like even though I'm like close to the club, when it comes to market values, I can't give them a higher value just because I know them well and so on.
Yeah.